Welcome to My Security TV. I'm joined by Sumir Bhatia, the President of Lenovo Data Center Group, and Daniel Fields, Executive Director for APAC Services. And Daniel, you're part of the PC aspect of Lenovo as well.
That's right.
So it's great to have Lenovo back. We were just kind of sort of harking back to 2019 when we were pre-COVID, but we were last in Taipei in Taiwan, and we did a podcast with you two gents. So the audience can go back and look at, I can't even remember, I didn't even look up what episode it was, but we'll have it in the show notes. Maybe we'll start off with the data centers, Sumir. There's been a massive uptake in cloud usage in 2020. What's been the movement in the data center sort of business and for Lenovo as well?
Well, Chris, as you know, in the COVID time in the last 10 months, a lot of companies found themselves in a situation where they had to move a lot of their employees, as well as they needed to reach their customers in a very different manner, which made them rush into VDI solutions and to be able to get their customers to go and be remote, as well as their teams. So we've been really busy. I think initially when we looked at it, a lot of customers, it was a situation like if you have a little hole in the roof of your apartment or house, the first thing you want to do is fill up that patch so the rain doesn't come in. And a lot of customers did that. They actually went into the cloud very quickly to go and patch that roof. But over time, they realized that they needed to actually have a more permanent fix. And that was really moving back into a hybrid environment, leveraging software-defined infrastructure, VDI solutions, and obviously keeping a security in mind. And this is where we help customers. So I can tell you that we've been extremely busy helping our customers to ensure that their employees are safe at home, able to continue with business, and they're able to reach their customers. So it's been busy, and this is also showed in our results, where we've had some pretty amazing results with, if I talk specifically about the data center group, we've had a 11% growth year on year in the last quarter, but most important, we had double-digit growth in areas that were really important, that resonated with the customers that I kind of just mentioned, which was software-defined infrastructure, storage, software, and solutions that really resonated again with customers like high-performance computing. So in summary, look, I mean, we've been busy helping our customers transform and continue business continuity in this very difficult time over the last few quarters.
Which has been sort of the stronger areas? At servers, as a storage, and maybe just remind us where Lenovo sits in sort of the server storage. And I know you're leading up in the HPC. I imagine you're still way out in front. But yes, servers and storage. Where are you there?
So look, I mean, as you said, in high performance computing, to start off with that, we continue to be number one in the Super Compute 500. We have about 36% of the market share, more than a third. We continue to build really great products that are doing extremely well. In terms of servers, again, I think, it's very important to make sure that, they're reliable. Reliability is very keen. As you know, Chris, we're the number one server manufacturers in the world, 7 years running by ITIC in reliability. We continue with that. In terms of benchmark, in terms of performance, we have over 200 performance benchmark, much more than any of our peers, which again, customers talk about invisible infrastructure, and it can be only invisible if you have great reliability, great performance, which we actually really focus on. But your question really was around what is it that's key focus in this time, and we're seeing a lot of hybrid cloud, which is fueled by software-defined infrastructure, HCI solutions, and this is what is actually really helping our customers transform and thrive in this very difficult time. And one of the things that Lenovo is in the forefront of is partnerships, and we bring customers choice. So it's not just about taking a HCI solution and telling a customer, hey, you have to go in this direction, but we give them choice. We have partnerships with Nutanix, VMware, Red Hat, Microsoft, and many, many more. So really giving customers that choice, and that's really where we're in this 10 months in this pandemic, which has really helped our customers. I also do want to say, this transformation of all these things I'm talked about didn't start in the COVID time. Where we started our transformation, and as I've spoken to you several times in the past, Chris, I think the pandemic, the COVID time really just accelerated how customers transformed their data center in this time, because there was no choice. They had to really get and look at new ways to reach their customers and keeping their employees safe working remotely.
I'll come back to you in terms of maybe the projects and how COVID may or sort of accelerated new data centers, but we'll bring Daniel in. Otherwise, it's awkward sitting there. Hi, Daniel. How are you?
Very good, Chris.
Talk us through the.
You again.
Yeah, very good. And talk us through the PC, because again, the PC market was extremely challenged at the start of the year. I think some of the Canalys reports out with some 30+% uptake, and then there was also sort of pressure on supply chains as well. So, yeah, give us a rundown on 2020 for the PC sector.
Yeah, certainly. Well, I think just for starters that in Lenovo's most recent quarter communications, as well as some coverage from analysts like IDC, Canalys, Gartner, we saw that Lenovo is #1 in PCs worldwide. That's one comment. Another thing is that the demand around COVID actually ended up being quite strong for mobile devices. So fewer people in work from home environments, fewer people in office environments and moving to work from home environments, that demands mobility. And that actually gave us some additional demand in both for the industry as well as Lenovo for PCs, which did well. Just to continue a little bit, a broad view of where Lenovo is sitting in this market environment is, for a couple of years running now, we've had a 3S strategy, which is smarter IoT, smarter infrastructure, which Sumir talked about a bit, and then smarter verticals. And the smart IoT part very much started around the PC, but there's an explosion of devices that are connected to the internet, which Lenovo is pursuing, be it smartphones, tablets, smart devices, and other types of IoT equipment. That's an area where Lenovo is focused. Let me then also talk about the smart verticals side of things. And in the smart verticals side, then Lenovo is looking more at solutions that are applicable for various industry verticals. So when you put all those 3 S's together, then Lenovo is very much focused on a services-led transformation approach to the market. So there was the PC demand, which you asked about, and which we're certainly seeing in the marketplace. And there's also Lenovo's approach to capturing that demand. And in terms of services-led transformation, one testament to how Lenovo's moving forward and responding to demand is in our most recent earnings announcement, we released at a group level that 8.5% of our group revenue is coming now from services and software. So it's a growing amount. I think that we'll continue to see that number develop and grow. But I suppose in order to continue being #1 and continue capturing demand and continue to respond to what's happening in the industry, we're going to have to take a service-led approach. Service is the glue which brings together the smart IoT, smart infrastructure, smart verticals, and it allows us to provide those solutions to our customers.
I was just looking, episode 182 was when we spoke last year, and the moment you said
Right.
the 3S strategy, yeah, it all came flooding back. It's like, yes, I do remember that. So what would be some of the key developments for you this year? Because again, you had that strategy, and it's always easy to come up with a strategy. It's actually implementing it is the challenge. I remember we were talking about pulling that laptop out of the box, and everything becomes seamless after that. Everything's installed, and from a user experience, how has all that developed? And what were some of the key challenges? Was there a challenge on supply this year out to the market, and did any partners sort of struggle through that, or again it was just meeting that challenge on the uptake on demand, and it went relatively smoothly? How would you rate it?
Well, I'd start by saying that we actually, Lenovo has a global supply chain which is very robust, and we have factories in a number of countries, so we're not relying too much on any given area. We do have factories in Wuhan that were initially impacted by the pandemic and coronavirus, but then we're able to ramp up manufacturing facilities in other regions. And then when Wuhan quickly came back online and the pandemic hotspots moved to other areas, then we're able to be flexible to control a robust supply chain. Now, yes, there were supply chain challenges, and we continue to, from time to time, see areas of shortages, but we're always being creative, and the outlook is always improving. I think initially when we're faced with a supply challenge, we start to pull everybody together with a worst case scenario, but having that robust supply chain, we always seem to be able to pull a rabbit out of a hat.
Yeah.
And we were able to supply our way in the Lenovo Q2 to be number one, whereas I know that from reading some commentary on competition, they were hit harder by supply constraints, and Lenovo was able to provide a robust, secure supply chain to overcome the situation.
It's a very interesting situation, again, because it's a highly competitive market and you're all big players too. Can you say whether it was potentially the supply chain, whether it was the human element that was the challenge, or componentry and certain componentry that became the challenge? What triggered off? So like Wuhan would have been in lockdown, so they would have shut down the factory, or did it later become componentry when you moved manufacturing elsewhere? Can you kind of give some insight into that without giving away, obviously, your two commercial secrets or whatever that may be? But yeah, how do you see that as, and for learning outcomes really for large supply chains, how they should prepare into the future?
Right. I think, first of all, I can reiterate, I think, some of the things that I've said about having robust supply chain that's global, that if there are challenges in a certain center, we're able to ramp up others. And exactly as you said, Wuhan really got clamped down early, back in the early 2020, the first couple months of 2020. But obviously, in general, they took pretty firm, swift action, and Lenovo also was able to open back up in a COVID-safe manner. So there was the human element, which I'd say was short-term.
Yeah.
That we had that robustness to be able to ramp up other centers to compensate, and then when Wuhan came back online, that really brought us back to full strength. And quite quickly, relative to, I suppose, how bad it could have been.
Yeah.
And on the componentry side, from time to time, we have to make sure that we've got great relationships with our suppliers, which we do. That we have a great network. And as I say, I suppose I'll reiterate the comment that that when the supply challenges are initially faced due to maybe certain suppliers having supply shortages or the responses that they had to pandemic, if you will, then we need to leverage our relationships, to make sure that we get consistency of supply. And we do see that our team consistently pull a rabbit out of a hat.
Yeah, I think it's important. I mean, it is an opportunity to build those. Well, leverage the relationships, but it's an opportunity to leverage them even further for the longer term. That builds trust if you can pull together in a time like that. Sumir, how about from the data center? Well, I'll open it up if you want to comment, but I was going to the data center view.
Yeah, sure. I just want to echo what Daniel's talked about. He talked about supply chain and the global footprint, and really, supply chain is our strength. There's a reason why we made some really great progress, and Gartner's ranking of us as an organization, number 15 in supply chain of all global companies across all industries, and that's number 4 across all global technology companies. From a DCG perspective, again, quite similar. We've got a global footprint. In fact, we continue to invest in new facilities. We're investing on a new Lenovo manufacturing site in Hungary. We're expanding our Monterrey, Mexico facility further, and we're also setting up another new supply chain in Mexico and another location in Guadalajara. So there's it's truly a global footprint, and which actually helps us to ensure that we are able to actually leverage our global footprint to provide our customers supply chain, the supplies at the right place. As Daniel mentioned, pulling the rabbit out of the hat, but there's a lot of thought and process behind it, leveraging that global footprint. And again, like I can give you several examples as we speak about where the footprint about supplying to customers that really needed it in hospitals, in health sectors, education, where we were able to prioritize and provide these customers so that they can continue to operate in critical segments, is another part of the very important aspect of our supply chain. Very, very proud of it, to be honest. And I think this is a big strength of Lenovo.
Great to hear. Maybe did you meet your normal targets that you had set? When we did talk last year in, ironically, Taiwan, which has fared quite well, so we could have stayed there if we needed to. How did your targets go? Are they on target? I mean, you said 11% growth in the data center sector. I imagine you may have bet targets, but there might have been other costs that could have sort of came in and sort of took away some of that.
Yeah, look, if we, targets are something that are internal in nature for us to go in and look at. There's a lot of other aspects like market, how's the market growing, is the market declining, and so forth, right? But, our regular focus is to make sure, and which is continuing, is to be premium to market, so continue to grow faster than market, which we are, as you can see in the results. But I think more than the target is really focusing on how we're helping our customers, transform. And, part of my job and Daniel's and all of us at Lenovo that's really important is helping in humanity's greatest challenges, leveraging our technologies like HPC and other sort of things, right? So which are very, very important for us. So this is areas that we continue to transform and move our customers. Sorry.
That's okay. It's working from home. Everyone's used to it now.
I've got a delivery coming in, so the nature of deliveries. But anyway, so to continue on that, that's where is very important. Now, if I zero down in an example that I give you, right, in Australia, we had a health organization, in this lockdown, had to actually move all their employees remotely, They had clinics, they had hospitals, they had aged care centers, and they had to make sure that they continue. And then they had suppliers, of course, and they had to continue to make sure that they're able to continue with business. And we received an order because they wanted to go into a VDI solution because healthcare, there's a lot of security involved in terms of the data of the customers and the patients. So we received an order, and within 3 days of working with a partner, within 3 days we prioritized shipping the equipment to this customer in Australia. So you can imagine leveraging our global footprint, shipping it out, and within a span of 10 to 14 days, they were ready and they were able to move their employees remotely. And these are things that we're all very proud of, that we could actually help in situations like this. And there's numerous educations are areas that we've also done this. So look, I mean, at the end of the day, targets are absolutely important. And I'm really, I talked about our results, which we definitely are doing well. But we're doing well because of examples like this, where we're able to help customers transform. And to me, that beats targets any day.
I think, I think the market would want to hear more about those. I think, as we move into sort of post-COVID, pulling those examples out will be good for all vendors to do, because, and I think sometimes some might have to cop it on the chin that they didn't meet, what they were saying prior. So I think it's important to do. I remember last year also you had the foldables coming out. Where did they make it to market? Sometimes I don't keep up with everything, but the foldable laptops and the like, they're all out now and being released. Daniel?
That's right. Yeah. Now, I mean, I'd say it's somewhat of a niche product in terms of use, but really shows where devices can go. I think we saw foldable technology with the first foldable laptop. We also saw foldable technology with one of our phones. And I think, basically it's just testament to the explosion of devices, which we have. Sort of tailing on your previous question, and also giving just another customer example on the back of what Sumir talked about. One area where we've seen an explosion and additional demand is even during COVID is with a food delivery company. And so there's a food delivery company that we worked with where initially we were providing them hardware, we were providing them laptops. But the first change that happened was that they got an explosion of demand. Now, what they used to do is they used to take those. Sorry, I think I said laptops. They take the tablets,
right,
which we provided to them, and they would kit up those tablets with the headquarters collateral and look and feel of a welcome package, which would then get sent out to the restaurants. But with the explosion in demand that they saw, they were challenged to be able to do that work. So. That's something that Lenovo, with the services-led transformation, was able to take on for the customer. So we used our own warehousing centers and configuration and pre-staging centers, and we were able to take the tablet, take the collateral from the customer with the print, make it look like a nice package from the headquarters of the company, and then send those nice welcome packages, including the tablet, out to the restaurants. And initially, obviously you have to support your device. So initially we provided support for the device, and we provided support for those welcome technology packages, which were going out to all these new restaurants, which were coming on board with the food delivery platform. But then, I suppose there was a security threat which came from COVID-19, where the rest of the customer's call center, our customer's call center, was all centralized in one environment in a call center office, which then got threatened because there were stay-at-home orders, and people were locked down and they couldn't gather in an office. So they needed to still provide the level of service to all this extra demand and all the restaurants. And it wasn't just questions about the tablet; it could be questions about how the app works or billing. And but they were going to have to dismantle their call center because the call center wasn't allowed to convene in one central location. So there again, we worked to propose to the customer that Lenovo has a robust backup and recovery capabilities for call centers. We do it for ourselves, our own call centers, where our call center agents can work from home. And as they work from home, they basically are able to use laptops to get onto the call queue. That remote call queue is an area where we were also able to propose to support our customer for call center activity that wasn't just about the traditional break fix, but it was about all the types of technological and platform questions which they got in order to be able to run their growing, hyper-growing food delivery business. I suppose what triggered that was this thought of what types of devices are out there, and it's not just PCs and break fix. It's actually, things like, tablets that are powering food delivery companies, and that's the type of smart IoT device explosion that we're seeing. The smart verticals in terms of, the retail and food delivery verticals, and how the services-led technology basically mobilizes to keep technology secure for our customers.
Very good. And I think, how does 2021 look for you? Because you talk about the service sector, and a lot of the service sector now uses tablets and the like as well. Is the market sort of a bit of an unknown? How are you looking at 2021 from a planning perspective? It's very difficult. But you're in the tech sector, so you're in the hot seat anyway. You're going to have some demand, but it's going to shift, if not head back to normal. Yeah, right. What are your expectations?
Yeah. I think that's something that we've started to talk about as the new normal.
It is. Everyone's just saying the new normal now. Normal, we don't know what it is. It's the new normal, whatever that is. We don't know, but.
Right. Well, but just to talk about that a little bit, there were some technology trends that we acknowledged and that we were seeing, that have been going on in recent times. Things like, more Gen Z and millennials and bring your own device, and workers that want, flashy devices. We're seeing things like, continued cost pressure. We're seeing things like more people working from home, or wanting to do be mobile workers.
Yeah.
And we're also seeing different types of device technologies. So, there's the device themselves, and we talked about some of them, whether it's foldables or IoT devices or smartphones, or not just laptops anymore, not just desktops. And also other types of technologies like cloud technology, like Sumir, mentioned, but also the types of cloud technologies that go along with Windows 10 as opposed to the more on-prem Windows 7. And so those things were happening, but I suppose what happened with COVID was it accelerated all of that. And, one of the ways in which, we found that Lenovo was already responding to some of those trends that are out there, but then also that we were seeing increased demand for our offerings was in the device as a service space. So I think device as a service basically let us handle two key items that were part of that changing landscape that I was talking about that were accelerated in the new normal. One of them is cost, and the other one is the people are working from home, not so much in an office anymore. And there are three sort of key elements which are resonating. The first is our ability to look at cost, and cost in this case is, for example, customers might not be able to pay all upfront with CapEx, so it moves to OpEx. The second part is lowered total cost of ownership when you combine hardware, financing, services, software, all in one bundle with one vendor like Lenovo can do. And the last part is flexibility. Some businesses like the food delivery company that I talked about are really doing well and have additional demand, but then there's other companies, unfortunately, in the travel industry, for example, that need to scale down on short notice. And so the flexibility to be able to only pay a monthly fee for what you want when you need it, pay for what you want and don't pay for what you don't, and be able to flex up when there's more demand and flex down when there's, it lets you hit the right cost point with flexibility. The second piece in terms of the device as a service is excellent software, or sorry, services and security. So in terms of services and security, I suppose with people not all working in one office location where you can have a IT guy run around with a USB stick and perform updates on PCs that are all centrally located, we're at a place where the workforce is distributed and you have people working remotely, working from home. And so we need to provide services to customers that are in that environment, and that is something that Lenovo is able to do flexibly, skillfully, and also has a global footprint for. And then, of course, there's the related security around that. And then the last piece is I think that we're finding was that maybe some of the traditional service providers that customers were working with weren't able to make that leap, or they were at different levels of maturity and responsiveness. But Lenovo had the ability to be one throat to choke. So I mentioned hardware, software, services, financing, and is able to provide the one-stop shop to be able to deliver all of that, and then relieve burden and from a network of IT service providers, or even a customer's own internal IT, to be able to provide all that aspect. So those are some trends that we saw, some things that were accelerated with the new normal, and also I think some of the forces that were driving increase in certain Lenovo offerings like device as a service.
I think the device as a service would have been whoever made that decision for the client at the outset would have been, thank God I signed that, because
right.
Allowed them to expand without. I've heard stories of people being sent down to local sort of computer shops just to go buy laptops. Go buy 20 laptops down from I won't mention the shop, but that was where they were at, rather than going straight to their supplier.
Hey, Chris, sorry, can I, that was a great question, what's 2021? And if I could just add a little bit to what Daniel said, just from a data center perspective also, the way when we talk of 2021, I want to look at how are our customers going to consume technology? What is going to be difference between now and 2021, right? As we said, the smart, I like to call it the smart normal, the new normal, right? They got to be a lot smarter with devices, and that goes with our 3S smart everything. But if you look at it, there's going to be greater levels of automation. Where customers are going to look at automation. There's going to be greater levels of app modernization. As an example, if you see today, there's a lot of planes that are not flying, but if you look at the airlines, they're trying to get revenue through different modes. Yeah. Here in Asia, we have a few airlines that are, selling food and delivery and so forth, which needs app modernization. So this is going to continue. So app modernization, education, AR, VR is going to be a key focus area. And then if you look at data, which is key, once you have data, which is going to be spread across on-prem, on the cloud, at the edge, the entire thing is how do I make sense of this data, but faster? And this is not new, but leveraging AI, HPC around it, artificial intelligence, making sense of that data. So, if we look at those trends, that's where we're looking from a 2021 focus area from a technology. Again, there'll be software defined. Yes, there will be VDI solutions continue, but But these SDI solutions will be used more for things like SAP HANA on the cloud, more data mining into data, finding sense into that. You will find edge computing happening, and again, there's going to be levels of data security at the edge, and all that IoT, as Daniel talked a little bit about devices. You're going to put all this together, and the customer is going to would want, how do I make sure that I look at all those trends and what technology is going to help me?
Yep.
So it's really with the trends that I mentioned in 2021. And I think as an organization, with what Daniel was talking about, what DCG does, what our mobile division does, we are in the best position to provide our customers these solutions. And I often like to say it's right from the pocket to the data center.
Yeah.
All aspects of it as one Lenovo, being able to help our customers in that field.
You're definitely
You're
definitely in the right. I'm just conscious of time, but I do want to cover off. You mentioned AR, VR, and the way, and I've been doing a number of interviews this week even, we're hearing a lot of organisations now are being forced to the cloud. That's where they're moving now quite rapidly, and it's becoming a challenge to deal with their legacy systems. And then there's new sort of startups coming out. I spoke to someone yesterday in San Francisco. We'll release it next week with, a network cloud sort of fabric that you can do sort of multi-clouds through one dashboard. So it's becoming very, very click and play and very interesting to do. How is from the cloud environment where you sit, Sumir, in terms of the data centers, the impact on the PC market? So Daniel, your title with PC in it should probably start to change to device. And will what's the sort of immediate future, maybe over the next 2 to 3 years, versus the PC versus the AR sort of VR type market? I asked Canalys late last week what's going to drive that. They believe the cinema industry, the entertainment industry, will drive the use of VR. Your thoughts around that, because definitely cloud computing will continue on, and you're in the good seat there, Sumir, in terms of data centers and servicing that. But I'm just wondering how that's going to impact on the devices, the consumer devices, PCs, but also the AR, VR. Where do you see that?
I can start. Maybe one of the first things that comes to mind as you talk about that is actually what's going on in education.
Yeah, you're right.
I think if you're just providing a laptop basically to a student, and it comes from a catalog, and they might be relying on, if it's a university IT support, or the school's IT support, it was not cloud-based, then that's a certain task. But I think what we're finding, though, is that we've got connected classrooms. We've got students with devices, teachers with devices. They want to be able to collaborate in the classroom. And then, of course, after COVID, distance learning becomes important as well. So, the types of devices then become in classroom might be a tablet for the student, might be a laptop for the teacher to be able to guide the learning, also it could be multiple operating systems where you're using Chrome OS in a lot of cases, and not just Windows. Then on the Windows side, there's basically the types of devices that you have might move from on-prem Active Directory, email, to all cloud-based. So using Microsoft CSP and the Office 365 environment, where first of all, in terms of image and device management, you've got the Windows 10 or Azure Active Directory rather in the cloud. We can authenticate against that with Microsoft Autopilot. You can provision via Intune in an end user's hands, like in a student's hands, for example. So the device is basically a zero-touch provision device for them, same as turning on a mobile phone as closely as possible. And now you've got let me just add some other devices to get back to your original question, where for distance learning, like we've worked with some customers across Asia. We've got one that wanted to basically set up a distance learning broadcasting center, which had camera, microphone, a green screen backdrop, and a display, and then that would basically allow them to broadcast distance learning to students who were remote. For another customer, in this case in the Philippines, they were fitting out classrooms using smart classroom technology that again would basically allow the whole class to be conducted using multiple devices, and then you need the service layer around all of that to be able to plan, to be able to implement, to be able to support, and to be able to manage the devices. And the management of the devices as well has to be now across multiple platforms. Could be Windows, could be iOS, could be Android, could be Chrome OS. But going back to the other example you gave, the gentleman who spoke with in San Francisco, you're going to want one pane of glass, to be able to manage that on. And just to throw out two services that resonate in that environment from Lenovo. One of them is our modern workplace offering, which basically takes the Microsoft stack and helps to implement that as much as possible with the most secure and the most zero-touch methodology. And can either be run by Lenovo or transition to a customer's IT department. And the other one is Lenovo Smart Fleet Services. And Smart Fleet Services effectively is the asset management, where again, you might have a lot of people working from home, learning from home, in a classroom environment, learning from home. And you still have to have asset management to understand where your fleet is. Second one is device or endpoint management. You need to be able to manage multiple devices, multiple platforms, multiple OSs, and security and antivirus management is another important part of that. So, essentially that modern workplace and the Lenovo Smart Fleet Services help, in this case, in a learning environment or in an education environment, but help with that device explosion and be able to basically plan, implement and manage all the devices which are being put out in that environment,
as well as bringing the new ones that when they come online. Look,
exactly.
Yeah, look, it's always a pleasure. You guys are a big business, so it's there's always a lot to talk about. I don't know why they put you two together, because it just doubles the time we spend talking, because I've got to cover both. We might have to start doing one-on-ones as well, because obviously the data centers and the devices, they're sort of layers apart, but they're definitely influencing each other very much. So, look, it's a pleasure. Samir, where are you based?
I'm based in Singapore.
Got it.
Chris.
And Daniel, you're here in Australia, aren't you? Melbourne?
I am. I'm in Sydney.
Sydney,
and
okay,
I haven't
nice.
moved since the beginning of the pandemic.
Okay, good work. Okay, well, we're both in Sydney and Samir there in Singapore. Absolute pleasure. Enjoy the rest of the Canalys Summit. As we would have been in Manila around about now, unfortunately.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, it's an absolute pleasure, and thank you, and thanks for coming on to My Security TV.
Yeah, thanks, Chris.
Take care,
Good to talk to you again.
Always.
Likewise.
Stay safe. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.